You know what? Let's bring on this guy. He is one of my favorites. I've had an opportunity to meet him several times, particularly on the golf course. And Bobby Hall, the Golden Jet, considerably one of the greatest left wingers ever to play the game. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm great, guys. How are you all?
Man, we are doing
Great.
Fantastic. Hey, let's talk a little hockey. All right?
We better talk hockey. Those Blackhawks are listening.
I hope so, Bobby. You know, we got a young team, of course. I think they've hit that proverbial kind of that wall a little bit, but I think they're going to come out of it. What do you think?
I would like to hope that they have found the reason that they're losing. A team can't play as well as they played during that stint in January and then play the way they've been playing in the last month or so. I just can't understand it. Either they aren't concentrating or they think that they've had their season by playing half of it, or they just haven't got the concentration that a young team might not have. I don't altogether believe in this youth deal because I can remember back a number of years, and you don't like living in the past, but we had young players that came on, and they didn't make any excuses about their age. They played with the pros, and they acted like a pro, and I think a lot of these guys had better take a look in the mirror just to see how poorly they've been playing the last little while and realize that it's not only a black mark on they themselves, but their families and the fans and the entire Blackhawk organization. So, guys, if you're listening, let's get to it. Play as a team, and the Blackhawk organization have been so great to them, and sometimes the more you give, the more they want. And let's hope that Patrick Kane had a statement in the papers that they've turned the corner. I don't know what corner it is, but let's hope it's the corner to some wins in these last 15 games of the season.
Bobby, you're an ambassador for the Hawks. Why don't you just go in the locker room tonight and next game and give them a pep talk?
Do you want to know something? My wife, I get ranting and raving at home when I see the ways some of them are playing, and my wife says, Robert, why don't you just go in the locker room and show them and tell them how it's done? I said, Deborah, I have not been hired to do that. as much as I'd like to, I'm my hands are tied, and let's hope that Coach Quenneville has got it figured out and can lay the law down and get these guys playing like they played in January. They've got talent. Let's have it come out again.
Fantastic. Hey, Bobby, I gotta tell the one great story. In 1992, we were playing a golf outing. Okay, and of course that's where I ran into you quite a bit. And
yes.
And we were up in the North Shore golf course there somewhere, and my father was visiting. And I said, hey, Dad, why don't you just come along, man? Let's just, it's close to the house. If we get too drunk, we can walk home. So I introduced him. You and your brother Dennis were standing at the bar, okay? And my dad just was like a kid in a candy store, man. He's just listening to you two guys. He says, those two guys together, Bobby Hall and Dennis Hall, man, those guys are like a couple of comedians for crying out loud.
Well, Dennis is the comedian. I'm just the straight man.
But, boy, I tell you, we never laughed so hard, and I'll never forget after dinner we kind of conjured back to the same spot in the bar, and I think between you and my dad, you guys dusted off a couple bottles of Bailey.
I'm sure that I remember that day, and we had a wonderful time with your dad, and if you can't have fun, you only come this way one time.
That's right. That's right.
And you better enjoy what you're doing while you're here, because once they pat you in the face with a spade, you're all caught up.
He's going on 82 years old, and he still talks about that
my
time.
very best.
Wasn't Coach Ditt get that table too?
Yeah, he sure was.
Yes.
Yeah, he sure was. You get some former athletes together and some alcohol, and boy, I tell you, the stories sure fly, don't they?
One lies and the other swears.
That's right.
Well, Bobby, after being away from the organization for so long, how much does this make you feel good that you're back with the organization, the team's having a good time? I mean, mental health-wise, this just has to be great for you to be back with this team.
I cannot tell you what a great feeling it is to be wanted by the Chicago Blackhawk organization. When John called me and I met with he and Rocky, it was just the greatest feeling in the world that after 35 years, the organization that I thought I'd always be with, the Chicago Blackhawks, wanted me back. And guys, I'm 70 years old, and I got the thrill of my life scoring goals, but this was a great thrill as well, being back in the fold with such a great organization and with such a great young team that has turned the corner and is going to get into the playoffs and go deep in the playoffs.
Bobby, David Spade here. Quick question. Did you have some issues with Bill Wirtz and Bob Pulfer?
Did I that question again?
Did you have some issues with the previous management?
Well, if I did have any issues, they all flew away that day that McDonough and Rocky Wirtz asked me to be a part of the Blackhawks again as an ambassador. We had our differences, and with what Rocky Wirtz has done, that it wasn't being done right the time before. So let's just go from here with these great with Rocky and his great organization. Let's go ahead and enjoy the rest of our lives watching a wonderful Blackhawk team.
And staying positive. I think that
absolutely.
Bringing you back as the ambassador of the Blackhawks is the greatest thing that that organization could ever think of. Hey, Bobby, we've got one heck of a Bobby Hall fan on the phone and would like to say hi to you. Hey, Daryl, how you doing out there?
Hey, Robin, how are you? David, what's going on? And Bobby?
Yes, David.
Legend, man. I remember, I'll just tell a quick personal note, and then I want to ask you a couple things about the Hawks. But my parents lived behind the rink in Downers that Whitey used to own. So I remember going over there one night and meeting you and Tony and Keith Magnuson, and I just remember shaking your hand. And I was a little kid; I was probably 10 years old, and I just remember how big your hand was. And then when I met you later on in life, I was shaking your hand. I still remember how big your hand was. I'm like, God, this guy's a monster, and and he's not that tall. But I just remember you bringing the boys over, and they used to come over and play in my swing set when they were over at Whitey's rink. So.
Oh my God! It's a wonder the swing set is still erect. After the white tornadoes got finished.
At the white tornadoes.
When they'd come down in the dressing room, the trainers used to say, "Batten down the hatches, boys. Here come the white tornadoes." The powder stock was flying and the tape was flying, and you just had to be on them all the time. They were just a bad group of a trio, Bobby, Blake, and Brett. They were bad. They were badasses. And I just want to tell you one little story, if you got time.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Go ahead, man. The floor is yours.
One of the rink attendants came down after a practice one day when I had the three of them there and said, "Mr. Hull, you better come up to the ice. It's about your kids." I said, "Oh, no, what happened? Did someone fall?" No, just you better come up. I went up there, and guys, the three of them were standing on the Indian Head at center ice with their pee-pees out, and they were urinating on the.
Is that when you were negotiating your contract with the Hawks?
That's when Billy and I were having our troubles. I guess maybe I'd said it so often. You know what? On Bill Wirtz, they thought they'd do that.
Well, it's all timing in life. You know what I mean? It's all timing.
They were Terrell Owens before Terrell Owens, dancing on the star.
Oh, that's great, man. I tell you what.
And you probably didn't discipline him for that either.
I could hardly be upset with him.
Hey, Daryl, you said you got a question for Bobby about the Blackhawks. What you got?
Yeah, Bobby, two concerns. I don't think we've got a guy that really scares anybody. And what do you think of our goalie? I mean, we got, $11 million tied up in two goalies that are, do you think they can take us anywhere?
There's a lot of money tied up in two or three guys, and far be it from me to say that that someone has spent too much money, but I believe that if they could ever realize what a great situation they're in, playing for the Chicago Blackhawks, what a great organization it is, and for the most wonderful fans in all the world, the Chicago fans, that they could pull up their socks and we wouldn't even worry about how much money some of these guys were making if they played up to their potential. And I really believe, and I want to believe Patrick Kane so much. He's a great young man, and I think the world of him. And I hope they're turning that corner. And let's see the goaltenders playing the way they're being paid to, and some of the defense and forwards playing the way they're being paid to do.
You think we need a tough guy still?
I'm sorry?
You think we need a tough guy still? I don't think anybody's scared of anybody on the Hawks right now.
I thought that before the trade date that maybe Dale would make some changes, but I guess he felt they had the team that he wanted to go the rest of the way with. I felt a couple of tough guys that could play hockey. I'm not talking about goofballs. I'm talking about guys with some size, and that would command some respect out there. Would have been a great addition to the Blackhawks.
Like a Keith Magnuson?
Are you talking about a goofball like Provy?
I don't want to categorize.
It's almost like people forget, though, during this whole stretch, and he's been out for a long time, but Patrick Sharp's a key part of this offense, and he's been hurt out of the lineup for a long time.
It seems like when Patrick went down, the team started to go in the
dumper.
Whatever you want to go.
Yeah, let's go there.
Crapper.
It's good.
Hey, real quick, Bobby, I had 6 sons. You had a few sons. I get to see Brett every once in a while. Comes out to some of the outings. But I also notice here that you also had a son, Bart, who played for Boise State University as a football player.
Absolutely, and he was the fastest white boy on the team, and he turned pro with the Ottawa Rough Riders in Canada. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether you people know it out there or not, but only in Canada. Canada in the CFL, the Canadian Football League, had 2 teams that were called Rough Riders.
Really?
Saskatchewan Rough Riders and the Ottawa Rough Riders. Now you tell me, how original can it get?
They ran out of names.
Yeah. Ran out of names. Oh, my goodness.
Wait, you're forgetting Bobby's most important kid. He's got a daughter who's an attorney.
Yeah, well, I wish you would act more like a sensible young lady instead of a lawyer.
Oh, no, wait. I got a 3-year-old daughter at home, and she's 4 now. She says, I want to be like my daddy. I want to be a lawyer when I grow up.
Well, apparently she had to take after the old man. She was an accomplished figure skater, I'm reading here.
I don't know so much about that, but her mouth, she took after her mother with that.
Bobby, when you were negotiating that contract, when you got $1 million to play in the WHL, what was WHA, sorry. What was the Blackhawks' top offer to you back then?
They hadn't made me an offer. That's what I was so perturbed about. They were skirting around while Arthur and Billy Wirtz were floating around the Caribbean in their ship. They had some lawyer trying to sign me, and they never did offer me a contract. It was bantered about. I just told them I wanted to be the highest paid player in the NHL. Well, then would you take $1 more than Bobby Orr? I said yes. whatever Bobby Orr is making, I'll take the same amount of money because he was the second best player in the league next to Brett Hull, you see. So, but they never really offered me a contract, and I set $1 million to the WHA just to get rid of him. Now, had I been a smart cowboy back in 1972 when there hadn't been a $1 million athlete of any kind, two-legged or four-legged, I would have said $20 million, and that was just to get rid of them. I had no idea that they were going to be able to raise or want to raise $1 million for me. But when I look back on it, there were 9 teams, 9 times 110,000 would get them the money, and I should have known that. But hindsight is 20/20, and guys, I paid for it.
Yeah, when you switch, it's kind of like in the football when they had the World Football League going, and Zonka and Kick and those guys went over to those teams and so forth. But you know what? They were there for about a year or so. Then they were very unhappy. They wanted to come back where the real the real show was, the National Football League. And
well, it wasn't so bad, guys. It wasn't so bad the caliber of play. We had some idiots that managed and coached, and of course they hired idiots to play, and we had to put up with them. But in the end, we had 4 teams that were pretty darn good: the Quebec Nordique, the Hartford Whalers, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Winnipeg Jets. And those 4 teams had they been left alone, could have gone into the NHL and been a great asset to the top end of the NHL.
Wasn't Wayne Gretzky starting his career in the
Wayne Gretzky started as a 17-year-old, I believe, and I can be corrected on this, with the Indianapolis Racers. Here's a little story. I was sitting with my teammates Lars-Erik Kruberg and Anders Hedberg and Alfie Nilsson, waiting to go to play the Racers at the hotel and having a cup of tea, and a lady was sitting by herself some tables over, and all of a sudden the young lady rose and headed straight for our table and came over and said, "Are you Bobby Hull?" And I stood up and I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." She said, "My name is Phyllis Gretzky, and you're going to be playing against my son tonight, and I don't want you to hurt him." I said,
Mom knows best.
You don't have to worry about us hurting anybody. We worry about getting hurt ourselves.
Well, at that point, it would have been tough, I think, maybe for you to catch him, wouldn't it have been?
Oh my God, he was a great young player.
Yeah.
He hit the post 2 or 3 times that night and was rather disgusted with himself. But the old lad was the guy that scored the winning goal that night, and one of the last goals I scored in the WHA against Tay Smith, and we beat them. I think it was either 2-1 or 3-2.
Wow. I tell you that's you know what, we're getting through these stories without alcohol. This is great.
Exactly.
How do you know? I woke up this morning at 6:00 and had one in my and
Formosa.
Ricky Seefeld says, "Bobby, what are you doing drinking at 6 in the morning?" I said, "I slept in."
Hey, Bobby, you are in the area, right? You're living in the Chicago area right now?
I live in Sarasota.
Oh, Sarasota. I'm sorry.
I just see a private call come through on my cell from my wife, guys, and I better answer it.
I'll let you know.
Okay, that's you know what? Perfect timing.
Afford another divorce. Come on.
Perfect timing. We are so happy to have you come on board today, Bobby, and hey, good luck, and I want to see you up at the Blackhawks rink a bunch more times. Let's cheer them on. Hopefully they can do well in the playoffs.
Let's all 22,000 plus forget the past month or so and look ahead to those playoffs and cheer these guys on to a great finish and then going on deep into the playoffs.